few months ago, a story appeared that immediately caught my attention. It's about the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco and the vote to erect a safety net on both sides of the bridge. The net will preclude people jumping off the bridge to their death, as have more than 1,400 men and women, causing the Golden Gate to be known as the Bridge of Death. Being from San Francisco, I have crossed that bridge many times, and I think that most people would agree that it is a magnificent structure. But I think that most would also agree that it is virtually impossible to cross the bridge without thinking of those who have made that awful leap of despair into the ominous waters below. Yes, the truth is that for many people, life is terribly challenging and painful, and the only solution appears to put an end to the suffering. Yes, it might well be that some of the great heroes of life are here with us tonight. You who endure some of the painful challenges of life and go forth, not so much because you find richness in life, but because you feel that you owe something to those who love you and to those who depend upon you. No, my personal heroes are no longer baseball players, nor even rich or influential people who do great things for other people. In truth, they are blessed to be able to do those things. And even as their motives are most often altruistic, still they gain much for themselves through the goodness that they perform for others. But what about those people both outside this tent and inside this tent, who live with all sorts of inner demons that rob life of joy and satisfaction? Those who live with constant bodily pain and illness. Those who live in emotional isolation. Those whose minds are filled with haunting thoughts and images to chase them from the time they awaken to the time they go to sleep. And sometimes even in their sleep. But you go on, day after day, with a degree of courage unknown to most of us. Yes, you are my heroes, for still you choose life over death, and still you persist in the challenge that is life. Am I speaking to just a few people who are here tonight? Is the story of Job the story of only a rare and unique man who knows way more than his share of suffering? Or is it true that life is hard and painful for many more people than we might suspect. That Yiddish story that I've told before, perhaps it's told by so many and so often because it conveys a great truth. The rabbi asks everyone of the town to bring their bundle of troubles to the village square, to place the bundles into a big pile. And when he tells the people to go and pick the one that they want, after looking inside at the other bundles, all or most of the people, in fact, return with the one with which they came. And no, that is not to say that some people do not suffer worse than others. But it is to say that most of us carry something heavy on our shoulders and in our souls, and that we need a Yom Kippur to renew that slight glimmer of light within us, that no matter how heavy the burden, life is worth pursuing and living as best we can. Cancer, ALS, Parkinson's, depression, manic depression, OCD, loneliness, phobias, addictions. They're all here among us. And they are all horrible plagues that people endure. And we need a Yom Kippur to rediscover that ounce of strength or faith that will provide a renewed vision to choose life, even if the gift that is life is compromised and marred. Our Jewish heritage begins with Abraham, but also included Sarah and Isaac and Rebekah and Jacob and Rachel and Leah and Joseph. And the Torah relates that each of these personalities faced their own heavy struggles and challenges. Whether it was Abraham, who was so severely tested by God regarding the depth of his ideals, or Rebekah, who faced the anguish of being childless, or Jacob, who envisioned a ladder representing his capacity to grow and arise from a phony deceiver to a worthy patriarch, or Joseph, who struggled to overcome his self-centeredness. Yes, each of these personalities wrestled within themselves and wrestled with a God who could not truly be known or understood. Only to know that the name Israel or Yisrael literally means to wrestle or to struggle with God. So that challenge persists until this day. And no doubt, for many of us, we too struggle with a God who is characterized in our holy books as all-powerful and all-knowing and just and loving. We struggle as we question, why the evil? How could God permit such suffering to good and innocent people? Does God really exist? Or as my 3-year-old grandson Mason asked, does God pretend to be God? And then we behold the wonders of life and of our world. The birth of a baby, the vastness of our universe, seemingly ordinary people who find a quality of greatness and courage within themselves. And yes, our capacity to become something more tomorrow than what we are today. Yes, like our spiritual ancestors, we too question and struggle as we realize that we are not given to know the answers. Perhaps only to realize, as Einstein expressed, either nothing is a miracle or everything is a miracle. In one of the famous stories of our Torah, Jacob finds himself struggling throughout the night with a mysterious foe who is much stronger than he. But Jacob refuses to let go of his adversary, demanding that he bless him. All night the struggle continued. Jacob is wounded, but he refuses to let go in the fight. And finally he does receive the blessing, and his name is changed to Yisrael, the one who prevails with God. For me, that episode is one of the most important and telling in the entire Torah. For I believe that life really is all about our persisting against our adversities to cause our hopes and our dreams to prevail. I think of some of the people that I've known and how hard they fought and struggled against their own adversary to make something good of life. There is a young woman named Kineret Chaya who visited our congregation a number of years ago, who lives today in Israel. A number of years ago, her body was so severely burned and distorted after a suicide terrorist exploded himself upon her as she was serving him a drink in a Tel Aviv bar. Her body was so badly burned and distorted that she was kept in a medically induced coma for many months. And then this beautiful girl, who now looked like a freak, dared to go forth to live, and now has 4 beautiful children. Or I think of the people of this congregation who have confronted every form of painful ordeal, from facing Joseph Mengele at Auschwitz to those confronting severe and possibly fatal illnesses, and those who face the same inner battles as did Jacob. Yes, all of you have responded to the commandment of the Torah that we read tomorrow. Uvacharta b'chayim, and you shall choose life. Especially on this night, I would remind you of a familiar passage in one of our prayers that we recite every day. V'hayu hadvarim ha'ela al levavecha. Set these teachings upon your heart, But our sages raise the question, shouldn't the passage tell us to set these teachings in your hearts rather than upon your heart? And what they pointed out is that so often in life, our hearts become closed or hardened, and that the soft and loving and wise part of ourselves becomes closed, and we lose sight of the goodness and the light that we have within us. And so there is the traditional confession of Yom Kippur and the old tradition of striking ourselves upon our heart as we recite the shortcomings of our lives during the past year. We say, Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu. The Hebrew words are in alphabetical order. We've been arrogant, brutal, careless, destructive, egocentric, false, greedy. We've compromised our standards of behavior. We've hurt others. On and on goes this confession of human sins. And with each admission, there is a pounding on the heart, as if to open the heart to the depths of goodness and possibility that are yet within us. I began by speaking about a famous bridge, and I'd like to conclude by referring to a not-so-famous bridge, but one that has an important place in our tradition. There lived a great sage who observed that all of life is as the crossing of a narrow bridge, and that the most important thing in life is not to be afraid. He had in mind not a magnificent structure like the Golden Gate Bridge, but a rickety, scary bridge held up with old and worn rope, and certainly limited in the amount of weight it could hold. That bridge was for Rabbi Nachman, a symbol of life with its challenges and its opportunities, life's struggles and life's courageous victories. Dare to go forth, he said, in spite of all that might keep you from crossing. My friends, the message that is at the heart of our Jewish religion and at the heart of this day of Yom Kippur are those two words, Uvacharta b'chayim, and you shall choose life. That is the Jewish religion. And we might well say that everything else that we do as Jews is but a reminder of that commandment. And to those of us who carry hearts that are filled with satisfaction and love and fulfillment, may you continue to be so richly blessed. And for those whose hearts and souls are filled with pain and agony, I surely wish you the strength to persist in the battle for a life of meaning and purpose by reaching beyond yourself, even as your sense of joy might be very much compromised because of the pain you've experienced and still carry within you. Yes, for all of us, we need a Yom Kippur to remind us that life is both dear and so fragile. And so, the challenge for each of us to reach and wrestle and envision the blessing and the opportunity that is today and tomorrow. Yes, for all of us who yearn for something more from life, Yom Kippur is a time to hold our hearts up to the eternal light of kindness, love, and compassion. And if we can't quite penetrate our hearts, may we say a prayer and keep knocking on the door of our hearts. Keep knocking, never stop, and sooner or later, the Spirit inside will open it, if only out of curiosity about the visitor who so badly wants to enter. V'acharta b'chayim. May we all choose life, whatever that may mean to each of us. God grant us strength and wisdom and vision, that we might cherish our days and gain us a heart of wisdom. Amen.